Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's December 16th, 2019 in Chennai, India, and we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Maharaja Nimai meets the 9 Yogendras, text 37. It's also the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhayam dvititya biniveshata syad ishad apetasya viparyayo smriti tamayato buddha abhajatam Bhaktyai kayesham guru devatatma. Bhayam, fear, dvitiya, in something seeming to be other than the Lord. Abhiniveshataha, because of absorption. Syat, it will arise. Ishat, from the Supreme Lord. Apetasya, for one who has turned away. Viparyaya, misidentification. Asmritihi, forgetfulness. Tat, of the Lord. Mayaya, of the illusory energy. Ataha, therefore. Tat, of the Lord. Mayaya, by the illusory energy. Ataha, therefore, Buddha, an intelligent person, abhajet, should worship fully, tam, him, bhaktya, with devotion, ekaya, unalloyed, isham, the Lord, guru devata atma, one who sees his spiritual master as his Lord and very soul. Translation: fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency for illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipful deity and as his very life and soul. This is a very, very long purport. There's a few places in this purport quoting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and because it is his disappearance day today, so after reading the purport, we're going to specifically focus on the quotes from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So as I'm reading the purport, please especially listen for that. Purport. According to Srila Sridhara Swami, the objection may be raised that since fear is caused by ignorance, it can be dispelled by knowledge, and there is no need to worship the Supreme Lord. The living entity falsely identifies with his material body, family, society, and so on, and he simply has to give up this false identification. Then what will Maya be able to do? In reply to this argument, Srila Sridhara Swami has quoted the following verse from Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya darachaya, mama eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. The living entity called Jiva Tattva is one of the potencies of the Supreme Lord, but the constitutional position of the living entity is tatastha, or marginal. Being minute, every living entity is eternally dependent upon the Supreme Living Being, Krishna. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature as follows. Nityo Nityonam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. Among all the eternally conscious beings, there is one supreme eternal living being who is supplying the needs of all the innumerable others. Katha Upanishad 2:1-12. Krishnadas Kaviraj has stated, Ekala Ishwara Krishna Ara Sabhabritya. Krishna is the only independent controller. All other living entities depend on him. What does Britya literally mean? What is the literal meaning of Britya? Britya. Arasara Sabha Britya. Servant. So here they're saying dependent, but servant. Just as the finger is part and parcel of the body, and therefore must always be engaged in bodily service, we as parts and parcels of Krishna, Mamaivamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha, have the eternal duty, Sanatana Dharma, of engaging in the unalloyed service of the Lord. The potency of the Lord that enlightens us in the Lord's service is called Chit Shakti. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that when the living entity develops a spirit of independence, he is forced to come to the material world, where he enters into various types of petty and undesirable behavior that create a fearful situation for him. The Bahiranga Shakti, the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord, covers all trace of the Chit Shakti and imposes one material body after another upon the living entity for his gross sinful enjoyment. As further punishment, the living entity who has given up his loving relationship with Krishna loses all power to perceive the eternal blissful form of the Supreme Lord, who is his actual shelter. Instead, the living entity becomes attached to many temporary, phantasmagorical forms, such as his personal body, the bodies of his family members and friends, his nation, his city, with its buildings and cars, and innumerable types of ephemeral material scenery. In such a state of gross ignorance, the idea of returning to one's original identity no longer even crosses his mind. What a tragedy, huh? Such a tragedy. This one paragraph is the whole tragedy. It's a very sad play, huh? At the end, you can only cry. By the laws of God, the three modes of material nature are constantly in conflict, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. This conflict is described in many places in the Bhagavatam as guna vyatikaram. When the living entity is bewildered by the interactions of the modes of material nature, he comes to the conclusion of relativity and assumes that God and worship of God are simply byproducts of the relative contradictory interactions of nature's modes. In the name of anthropological, sociological, or psychological perspective, the living entity falls deeper and deeper into the darkness of materialistic ignorance, dedicating himself to mundane piety, economic development, sense gratification, or speculation, in which he regards the absolute as lacking variety and personality, which he assumes to be products of the interactions of nature's modes. So a simple summary of that paragraph is saying that people think that God, conceptions of God are also material, and conceptions of a personal God are just due to culture or some sort of illusion. The illusory potency of the Supreme Lord is duryatya. It is impossible to escape without the direct mercy of Krishna. Mam evaye prapadyante, mayam etam tarantite. Second time this verse is being quoted. The example may be given that when the sun is covered by clouds, no man-made apparatus can remove them from the sky. But the sun itself, which created the clouds, can immediately burn away the cloudy covering and reveal itself. Similarly, when we become covered by the illusory potency of the Lord, we identify with our temporary material body, and thus we are always in fear and anxiety. Why would identifying with the body always put us in fear and anxiety? Why else? attachment. We want to be the master. What happens to this body? Huh? It perishes. Are our bodies going to, everyone here, is your body going to die? Yeah? Is your body probably going to get hurt? Is it going to get sick? Unless you die very young, is it going to get old? Is that scary? Is that frightening? Yes. Yes? No? You don't know. Is that scary or not? He doesn't know. Not scary. Everyone will become old except me. Everyone will get sick except me. Everyone will get hurt except me. Everyone will die except me. No, but we are then always afraid. Because guaranteed. I am putting so much work into this body. Yes? This body is a lot of work. To feed the body, clean the body, clothe the body. Isn't it a lot of work? Yes? A lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of work. How many hours a day are we spending for the body if we count sleep? 12 hours a day at least. And it's simply going to rot. So then we are always afraid. Yes? But when we surrender to the Lord Himself, He can immediately free us from this illusion. The material world is padam padam yad vipadam. It is dangerous at every step. When a living entity understands that he's not the material body, but an eternal servant of God, his fear is vanquished. Isn't that a relief? I'm not this body! Yay! Not just that there's no fear. It's such a wonderful, joyful thing. As stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Atra bhaktai samsara bandham na betavyam sahi bhakto pravartaman asya swata eva payati. In this Bhagavad Dharma, devotees have no need to fear the bondage of material existence. That fear goes away of its own accord for one who engages in devotional service. It is important to make clear that bhayam or fear cannot ultimately be vanquished simply by impersonal self-realization, as expressed by the words Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit soul. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.12, Narada Muni says to Vyasadeva, Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava varjitam na shobhyate. Mere naishkarmyan or cessation of material activities and repudiation of the bodily concept of life cannot ultimately save one. The living entity must find a superior shelter on the spiritual platform. Otherwise, he will come back to the fearful situation of material existence. That is stated in Shastra. Aruha krachena param padam tata pachan jidon nadita yushmad angraya. Bhagavatam 10.2.32. 10.2.32. Who is speaking there? Who is speaking in the second chapter of the 10th canto? Who is speaking this verse in the Bhagavatam? 10th canto, chapter 2. Sages and demigods, who are they speaking to? Yes, yes, who said? Krishna in the womb, yes, very good. Although one may with great labor and effort struggle up to the Brahman platform, klesho dikatarashtesam avyakta shaktatetasam. Where's that verse from? Klesho dikatarashtesam avyakta shaktatetasam. What is that verse? Bhagavad Gita 12.5. If he does not find a suitable shelter, he will come back to the material platform. His so-called liberation is vimukta mana, liberation by imagination. So that's another tragedy. If you manage to realize you're not this body, but you don't realize you're a servant of Krishna, it doesn't last. Again, you fall down. Just like sometimes alcoholic or somebody addicted to smoking, they quit and then again they become addicted again, yes? They quit and again they become addicted. So the person gets liberated, I am the soul, and then again falls down. The living entity is by nature pleasure-seeking, Anandamaya. Now we are suffering because we are falsely seeking pleasure on the material platform, and as a result we are becoming entangled in the painful complexities of material existence. But if we try to give up the pleasure-seeking propensity altogether, we shall eventually become frustrated and return to the platform of material pleasure-seeking. Although there is eternal existence on the Brahman platform of impersonal realization, there is no Ananda. Variety is the mother of enjoyment. In the Vaikuntha planets, there is actual spiritual Ananda. Krishna is there in his ecstatic spiritual form, surrounded by his blissful associates, all of them eternally full of bliss and knowledge. They have nothing to do with material existence. In the spiritual planets, even the scenery and birds and animals are fully conscious of Krishna and are absorbed in transcendental bliss. Yad gatvana nivartate tad dhammam paramam mama. Bhagavad Gita 15:6. One who glows to the blissful spiritual planet of Krishna will be fully satisfied and never come back to the material platform. Therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said, Kim chatra bhaktayar samsara bandhan na betadvyam. Only the bhakta actually becomes free from fear. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has emphasized the necessity of accepting a bona fide spiritual master, who is Rajendra Nandana Presta, the dearmost servitor of the son of Nanda Maharaj Krishna. The bona fide spiritual master is completely free of envy of other living entities, and therefore he freely distributes knowledge of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the living entities who are inimical to the service of the Lord somehow hear this knowledge submissively, they become free from the illusory potency of the Lord, which has covered them and thrown them into various miserable species of life. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, by the mercy of the spiritual master, the faithful disciple gradually realizes the transcendental position of Lord Narayana, who is served with great awe and reverence by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune. As the disciple's transcendental knowledge gradually increases, even the Parameshwara, or supreme opulence of the Lord of Vaikuntha, becomes pale in the light of the beauty of Govinda, Krishna. Govinda has inconceivable potency to enchant and give pleasure, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, the disciple gradually develops his own blissful relationship rasa with Govinda. Having understood the blissful pastimes of Lakshmi Narayan, Sri Sitaram, Rukmini Dwarkadish, and finally Lord Krishna himself, the purified living entity is given the unique privilege of participating directly in the devotional service of Krishna, who becomes his only object and shelter. Thank you for sitting through that very, very long purport. Bayam dvitiya binishveshatasyad ishad apektasya viparyayosmiti tanmaya yato buddha abhyajetam bhaktai kayesham gurudeva tatma. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as a material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency for illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipful deity and as his very life and soul. So because today is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, I want to just speak briefly, because it's already late, on the statements in this purport that are comments of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So the first thing that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati tells us is why we are in this situation of illusion and fear in the first place. Because we might ask, why would a living entity who is Anandamaya Vyasat and who is naturally abhayam, fearless, would come into a situation full of fear and anxiety? Why would we do this? And here he says it is due to a spirit of independence that forces us to come to the material world. Now, although we are forced to come here, we are forced to come here because we want to come here. This is the paradox. I want to be independent of the Lord, and the only way to be independent of the Lord is to be in illusion. I was just hearing Srila Prabhupada say today that if we love Krishna, we will see him at every moment. Because he is here, yes? He's in my heart, but I don't see him. He's in the light of the sun. I don't see him. He's in the deity. I don't see him. He's in the holy name. I don't see him. One thinks, though, the deity is stone or wood. The holy name is just some sound or just some music. The sun is just rising. One doesn't see that it is the Lord. Of purifiers, I am the wind. We're feeling the fan. Krishna is joining with our air of breath. So he's everywhere. But if I want to be independent of him, I don't see him. Exactly like some child, they want to do something naughty. So they try to go to where their parents cannot see them. Yes? Maybe we remember when we were children doing this. We think, oh, if I go in my room, close my door, I will sneak some chocolate into my room, you know. I will go into the kitchen, I will take some food, and I will go in my room and close the door, and I will eat, and my parents will not know. Right? Isn't it? So we are like that. We want to be independent where we cannot see Krishna. We want to go in the room, close the door, so Krishna cannot see. Krishna cannot know. Yes? But how is that possible? That Krishna cannot see, Krishna cannot know. So we have to be covered with this illusion. Krishna says, okay, if you want to think that you are not dependent on me, because as said earlier in this purport, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman, which was translated in this purport as giving us what we need. But Kaman is a desire. Krishna is a very indulgent parent. And whatever the living entities desire, he just gives. So if we desire, I want to be in rebellion. He says, okay. But the only way you can be in rebellion is to be in illusion. How can you rebel if you see Krishna everywhere? It's not possible, right? If mommy and daddy are standing right there, you cannot steal the candy bar. It's not possible. If the teacher is standing over your desk, you cannot cheat on the exam. Isn't it? If you want to cheat on the exam, you have to wait till the teacher is looking at the blackboard. You can tell I have some experience of this when I was a child. So Krishna is covering us, yes? Yes. We are put under this covering by force because we desire independence. And then the point here is that the only way to remove this covering is by Krishna. Just understanding, because we all understand. Everybody here already understands. First thing we learn in Krishna consciousness is, right, Dehi nosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara. First thing we understand, I'm not this body. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. That is supposed to be the first thing we understand. I don't know. Huh? Theoretically. After sometimes 30, 40, 50 years, still people do not understand I am not this body, even theoretically. We will not talk more about that. But at least theoretically we should understand I am not this body. But is that enough? The theoretical understanding, is it enough? No. Still we become frightened. A dog barks, we become frightened. Huh? A cockroach comes. Oh, that happened to me actually. Yes, you were saying that I just came from Mayapur Dham, and so one day in the bathroom, in the toilet room, big cockroach. And I had no means to get him out. I had no broom or anything. And the next morning when I went to wake up my deities, he was on the altar. And as soon as I went to wake up the deities, I screamed. I went, ah! Some little bug, I mean, Hare Krishna. I'm sure I am more frightening to the bug than the bug is to me. But immediately I jumped. Ah! We become so frightened. So just knowing theoretically I am not this body, I cannot be hurt. I don't think Krishna mentions cockroaches in the list. But I cannot be hurt by water, by wind, by fire. And still I become frightened. Yes, and we become frightened not only for the physical body, we become frightened if other people don't like us. Because we are herd animals, you understand? We're social animals. And so if the other people in my group, if they don't like me, how will I get food? How will I get shelter? So we're always frightened. Do people like me? Do they respect me? If somebody insults us, says in the Bhagavatam, insult is more painful than a physical dart. Yes? We become full of fear. So this theoretical knowledge is not enough. I have to have this veil removed by the Lord. Twice in this purport, quoting this. Otherwise, so hard. Duratiya. Impossible, actually. Because it's the energy of God. So how will I get this veil removed? I have to convince Krishna that I want it removed. Because Eko Bahunam Yovidadati Kaman, he's fulfilling my desire. If I say, Krishna, remove it, but don't remove it. I don't want to suffer anymore, but I still want to be independent. He says, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. I want to be fearless, but I still don't want to see you. He says, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. I want to see you so you can satisfy all my desires. He says, no, that doesn't work. How do we see him? Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achinta gunasrupam. I will only see Krishna if I love him. I don't want to see people who will simply exploit me. Who wants to do that? So how will I do that? How will I love Krishna? So that I can honestly say with integrity, my dear Lord, I want to see you and serve you. I don't want to be independent anymore. And Krishna he's in my heart. Iswara sarvabhutanam hrideshar junatistati. And then when I say that with my mouth, I have to be saying with my heart also. If I say with my mouth, I want to serve you, and with my heart I'm going, I want to be independent, then Krishna will leave me in Maya. So how can I say this also with my heart? And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says here, he's picking up from this verse, the end. Guru Devatatma. That one needs to see one's own Guru as one's own God. One needs full devotion to Guru. This is not a very popular idea in 2019 in most of the world. That we surrender to some Guru, Even when I joined ISKCON in 1973, it was not popular. I remember when this is very embarrassing, but when I first came to the temple, no, not when I first came to the temple, later. And this one brahmachari was preaching to me. And he was saying, why don't you come and surrender? And I said, but I don't want to follow any authority. I don't want someone to tell me what to do. This is the modern idea, yes? And this devotee, thank you very much to this devotee. He said, so many people are already telling you what to do. You already have so many authorities. You are not free from authority. And immediately I could understand he was right. He said, if you are already accepting so many authorities, why don't you accept the good authority? I said, oh yes, this is very intelligent. And then I went to the temple president. I said, can I please move in the ashram and stay here and accept a proper authority? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is saying This authority should be Vrajendra Nandana Preshta. Ideally, it should be someone who's dear to Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. It's all right if you want to, if you love Lakshmi Narayan, we have no objection. Even many devotees of Mahaprabhu, they love Sitaram. We have no objection. Mahaprabhu, he was very happy with those devotees of Sitaram who he could not convert to Krishna Bhakti. He would try to make them Krishna Bhaktas. Some of them became, but some of them didn't, like that South Indian Brahmana. Oh, I love this story. This South Indian Brahmana, he invited Mahaprabhu for lunch. If someone invites you for lunch at noon, you expect you come at noon and it's all prepared. But he hadn't even cut the vegetables. He hadn't even washed the rice. He hadn't even started boiling the dal, nothing. And Mahaprabhu is saying, you have invited me for lunch, but you haven't even begun. And this Brahmin said, I cannot cook. Why can't you cook? Because Ravana has touched Sita. How can I do anything? And Mahaprabhu said, no, don't worry. He is touching an illusory Sita. It's not the real Sita. So the Brahmana was pacified. Yes? And Mahaprabhu was so happy with this devotee. When he was traveling, Mahaprabhu found the Kurma Purana, where it specifically says that before Ravana abducted Sita, there was a switch. There was one devotee who wanted to be married to Ramchandra, but he has this Ekpatni Vrat. But she very much wanted to be the wife of Ramchandra. So she got to be the illusory Sita that was in Lanka. And they switched. Sita went to stay with Agni, and this other devotee came and took the place of Sita. And Ravana kidnapped her. And when Ram asked that Sita be tested in the fire, again they switched. So this was in the Kurma Purana. And Mahaprabhu was so happy with this Ram Bhakta. He asked permission from the temple that they could copy this page. Now listen to this. He left the copy in the temple and he took the original page to the Brahmin. Imagine this. Now we buy books like this is now original. The original copy he took with him. That page, that leaf. And then he had to walk back because, he was walking around South India. But he had to walk back to see this Brahmana. And showed him, here's the evidence. Here's the proof. It's very important. What we say, we should back with Shastra, not just that we say some whatever crazy thing we are thinking. So my point is that Lord Chaitanya had devotees who were Ram Bhaktas. We have no objection. If you like Lakshmi Narayan more and you want to go to Vaikuntha, you can still stay in ISKCON. You don't have to leave. If you want to worship Sita Ram, you want to worship Nrsingadev, Rukmini, Dwarkadish, that is okay. But we are also presenting Krishna, Sri Nandana Krishna. And if you have a guru who's a devotee of Nandana Krishna, he can give you bhakti to any incarnation of Krishna. Whatever is your personal taste, as is saying here. What happens when we accept guru? Eventually our own relationship with Krishna awakens. As says here, we develop our own rasa. Our rasa is already there, it awakens. We become aware. Oh, I want to love Krishna in this way. I want to love Krishna in this way. And my dear friends, that is the only thing that convinces Krishna to remove this veil of illusion. Why is that? Because I have to have something better. I cannot remove this veil of illusion just by saying I don't like it. I have to have an actual identity. I cannot just say I am not this body. Well, then who are you? I have to have some identity. And identity is in personalism. Identity is in rasa. Identity is related to Krishna. Then I can say, yes, Krishna, I love you. Not just general, but I love you like this. Then there is no need anymore for illusion. And then there is no fear. Of course, in Krishna's Leelas, there may also be fearful things. When Krishna's in Kaliya's coils, that is fearful. When Indra is sending the storms, that is fearful. When the demons come, Keshi, that is fearful. Aristasura, that is fearful. But that is sweet fearful. In this world, we have some imitation of sweet fearful, like people watch a scary movie, or they go to some place where they ride, you know, those like rides in amusement park, turns you upside down, makes you scared. So we get there's some pleasure in that kind of fear. Oh, what will happen to Krishna? That is very tasty. That is a rasa. So why is it that we must have such devotion to Guru? Because Guru can convince Krishna that we are sincere. If someone has offended me, I may not even be willing to speak to them. Actually, this happened to me. I offended one devotee, and she would not speak to me. I was trying to say, I apologize. But she wouldn't read I was writing, text message. She wouldn't read it. It was showing not read. You understand? Months going by, not read, not read, not read. So how could I reestablish my relationship? Had to be through a friend, yeah? So I had to go to a mutual friend. And she asked this mutual friend, is Urmila sincere? Does she really want to apologize? My friend told me that. She's saying, does Urmila really want to apologize? And if my friend told her, no, Urmila is not sincere, then she will not talk to me. And if the friend says, no, actually she is really sorry. You understand? Doesn't this work like this? If someone's really offended us, we don't even want to see them. Correct? So how can they approach us? But if some mutual friend comes and says, they've changed. Okay, to please my friend, I will consider. So Guru is like that. Also, Guru knows God, otherwise we'll simply speculate. So in one sense, only Krishna is the dear friend. Prabhupada would say this over and over again. Prabhupada would say, I am not your friend. Only Krishna is your friend. Guru is not God. He says, but I am your friend in this sense that I am giving you your friend. So this is actually our only hope. We can do all the yagyas and this and that perfectly, but yasya prasadam bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadam nagati katopi. Without the mercy of a devotee of the Lord, we have no hope at all. And by the mercy of a devotee, what is it? Even a lame man can cross mountains, right? A fool can speak nicely. Of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is also everyone's guru in the Hare Krishna movement. He is our Parama or Parama Guru. And it's by the mercy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati himself. He was the one who said to our Srila Prabhupada, you are an educated young man, go and preach this message to the English-speaking people. Preach in English to the English-speaking people. And I will tell you very frankly, here in India, that Prabhupada tried to speak to Indians in India, and not very many people were interested. But when Srila Prabhupada came to America, because he knew Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted the disciples to go to the Western countries. He had sent disciples to London. But Srila Prabhupada thought no one is interested anymore in the British. They're all interested in the Americans, and especially New York. So Prabhupada came to New York, and he picked up a New Yorker like me. And now I have come here to tell you Indians. That is Prabhupada's trick. That is all the plan of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. I was seeing just now in Mayapur, every day busloads of, mostly Bengalis of course, are coming to the temple. I'm telling you, they are not coming to see Radhamadava. They're not coming to see Nrsingadev. They're not coming to see the Panchatattva. They are coming to see us white elephants. 100%. I know, because they are all coming and looking at me. Oh, look, 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 look. There's somebody with blue eyes who's chanting Hare Krishna. And they are coming and asking me, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? Are you chanting? What is that? Are those beads? Are you chanting? So this is all the transcendental trick of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Of course, now in ISKCON, most of our members are Indians. Yeah? All over the world. Not in Russia. Not very many Indians in Russia. But all over the world, most of our members are Indians. Still, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had this idea. And Srila Prabhupada carried it out. So I am feeling very happy that although my birth in the West, I was born to just mlechas and low-grade, very low-grade materialistic people, still, somehow or other, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Srila Prabhupada have engaged me in this transcendental trickery to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So, thank you very much. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So it is very late because the purport is very long. Oh, today's fasting, so no one has to go for breakfast. Okay, so we can take one or two questions.
I still remember when we were in the Sankirtan book distribution in the van. We used to go to the village, and with me always some few Western devotees used to come, especially Italians. We used to have a lot of Italian devotees. Surprised to see that some villages, they're seeing first time the Westerners. Just to see the Westerners, they come in groups.
Yes.
They only see in the movies. They see a Westerner wearing saffron and this Western devotee, Janma Karma Chime Divya, they call them out. So that's we have seen. When I tell, nobody listen. So we always take this Westerner from Europe, America, he has given up all this nonsense.
Yes.
Oh, is it like that? Is it possible? And they also said, how you gave up?
Yes.
The inquisity increases.
Yes, and when I was going from the plane to the airport yesterday, one gentleman was in the bus next to me, going from the plane. And he said that he's a life member of ISKCON. And he was coming here to defend his dissertation. And so he was also asking me how I took up Krishna consciousness. And so I just said one verse from the Bhagavad Gita, just Janma Karma Chame Divyam. He said, oh, you know more Sanskrit than me. I said, yeah, probably. Yeah, and it was very interesting. It was very interesting.
One time when senior Matajis came to a temple, they were all wearing saris. Some Indian women said, how come they are giving up all the modern dress and wearing saris?
Yes,
so I feel ashamed that they should wear it, so that, because they are afraid that when Western starts wearing Indian traditional dress, Indians also will have to start.
Yes.
Otherwise they'll be mocked up.
Yes. Well, that happened to me also yesterday in the airport in Calcutta. That many of the Indian ladies who were wearing Western clothes, blue jeans, they came up to me and they said, oh, you are looking so nice. So, but this is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's idea. Of course, of all of his disciples, Srila Prabhupada took this up very vigorously, but this was his idea. Srila Prabhupada said that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati arranged for many of us to take birth all over the world so that we could engage in this transcendental trickery.
Prabhupada landed in Calcutta 1971, first time his landing. Many Calcutta people came to see. So when they're coming from the steps of the airplane, it's for huge Western devotees, 6 feet, wearing whitish, women wearing sari. Some were commenting, are they from demigod planet? They look so white and wearing tilak, they look so beautiful. Like regarding fear, we have been reading Bhagavad Gita, I'm not this body, theoretically. And after many years also, when the thing comes which I am affected, at that particular moment, I forget that, I get the fear. It's easy to say,
Yes.
you have to do a lot of work.
Well, my suggestion actually is related to something at the end of the purport of the previous verse. This famous verse, Yuvatinam yata yuni yuvam cha yuvato yata manobrahmate tadvan maname ramatam tvi. As the minds of young girls take pleasure in thinking of a young boy, and those of young boys take pleasure in young girl, may my mind take pleasure in you. And then mama sukarmani duskarmani chayad raga samayam tad sarvato bhavena bhagavad vishayam eva bhavatu. Whatever attraction I have for pious or sinful activities, let that attraction be wholeheartedly invested in you. So whatever disturbs me in this world, it has some transcendental counterpart. So let's say I have some problem with my in-laws. Maybe my mother-in-law, father-in-law, or maybe for me now, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, granddaughter-in-law, grandson-in-law. I can immediately think, well, Lord Shiva had a problem with Daksha. And I can start meditating on the pastime of Daksha and Lord Shiva, or Krishna and Rukmi. Or there's some disagreement in your family, right? This is one source of fear and anxiety for us, some disagreement in the family. And I can think about, Krishna didn't know what to say after Balaram killed Rukmi. He didn't know what to say because he didn't want to get Balaram upset. He didn't want to get Rukmini upset. Or what to speak of the Kauravas and the Pandavas and Kunti. If I feel afraid because I feel alone and helpless, think about Kunti. She said to Krishna, I feel like I'm a deer. What is it, surrounded by wolves? And Prabhupada said she was actually in that situation. I can meditate on that. Right? Whatever situation there is, some problem with the government. Maybe I'm afraid of something with the government. They're going to raise taxes, or they're going to cancel my visa. Like I go to countries, like when I go to the GCC countries, the Indians there, none of them are permanent residents. And they're always in fear. Many of them have lived there 30, 40 years, but they're always in fear that the government will expel them. Right? Or many foreigners I know in America right now, because the current American president is like this, and so many devotees I know, they're in fear. But what about Kamsa? Then you think of how Kamsa was there, and the devotees, they had to leave. They were afraid. They were hiding. Some of them were hiding in caves. If you're separated from someone you love, you're thinking you wish you could be with them. You can think Rohini, she was separated from her husband for so long. Her husband was in prison. And then she was hiding in Vrindavan with Balaram 16 years. I mean, obviously she visited Vasudev sometimes, but 16 years she didn't really see her husband at all. How difficult that must have been for him and for her, for both of them. Or when the Pandavas were in exile, they didn't take Subhadra. 13 years Subhadra was without Arjuna, just taking care of Abhimanyu. How much Arjuna loves Subhadra so much. Right? Before he kidnapped her, he was thinking about her 24 hours a day. So whatever is causing me fear in this world, or maybe we get injured, we can remember Pradyumna in the battle with Shalva. how he was injured. His charioteer took him away from the battlefield. Of course, if we do not read the Shastra, then we cannot do this. This technique of spiritual life, Prabhupada said we should teach the techniques of spiritual life. This only works if you read the Shastra. You have to know what are the pastimes of the Lord, what are the pastimes of the devotees. But you can try this. It's very effective. Very effective. If there's some problem in management, you can remember how, Yudhisthira. He was deprived of his kingdom. Vidura, such a well-wisher of the Kauravas, and Duryodhana threatened to have him beaten. He said, leave him with only his breath. Vibhishan had to leave Ravana. He was a well-wisher of Ravana, and he had to just leave. He was afraid Ravana was going to imprison him. Yeah? Even Duryodhana tried to capture and imprison Krishna when Krishna came. Gajendra. That's injury or attack from somebody.
Also we have Draupadi had 5 husbands and she was completely taken away. Nobody helped.
So if someone who's supposed to take care of you, they're not taking care of you, you know, you're thinking, why isn't my husband taking care of me? He's supposed to be taking care of me. Or my father, or some authority. We remember Draupadi. 5 husbands. Please don't try this at home. Sitting in the same room, and such qualified husbands. But each of her husbands was so qualified. And yes, the elders, sometimes it's like that, right? If somebody betrays it, they betrayed her, really. Her husbands, the elders, everybody betrayed her. Except Vidura and, what was his name? The son Dhritarashtra had with the Vaishya woman. What was his name? Yutsa. Those were the only ones who did not betray her. So people betray us, yes? Do people betray us? They're supposed to be there for us. We think, when I have trouble, this person will be there. My parents will be there for me. My husband, my wife, my children, my ISKCON institution. And then we are in trouble and we look around, nobody is there for us. Think of Draupadi. Nobody was there. She was alone. Prahlad. His own father.
But he was not bothered about anything. He was happily like
His own father. And his guru Narada didn't interfere either, did he? Narada didn't come and say to Hiranyakashipu. It was a secret guru relationship. Because his father asked him, who's taught you this? Prahlad doesn't say. He says, oh, you won't understand this. You cannot understand. You cannot understand yourself. You cannot understand hearing from others. You cannot understand. He wanted to keep his guru-disciple relationship secret with Narada because he's thinking Hiranyakashipu is going to torture my guru. So he didn't reveal.
Like how Prabhupada, when I go to a different city, I carry my debit card or credit card. I'm safe that I have some money. Even with 40 rupees, no one alone to a new place.
He couldn't even change the 40 rupees. Nobody would give him dollars even. That happened to me when I was in Russia. Some devotees gave me a donation in rubles. I didn't change it in Russia, and no other country would change it. Anywhere I went in the world, I went to, couldn't change it. Yes, probably. Maybe would buy at that time 1 meal. You know, at that time, maybe 1 meal, maybe 1 bus.
There's a saying that if you don't have anything, you're fearless.
Yes.
If you have anything, many things,
then you're afraid
that
you'll lose
somebody
them.
steal me and
Yes,
they'll steal.
yes. Anyway, I have found this to be a very wonderful recipe for dealing with fear. That when the mind goes to these fearful things, anxieties, or any of these, you know, anger, frustration, helplessness, not just fear, grief, loneliness, when the mind goes to these places, that you can immediately make the mind your friend by thinking, what in the Shastra is there that I can meditate on that is the reality, of which what I am experiencing is the illusion. And then we start to meditate. If you start to meditate on Draupadi, you start to meditate on Srila Prabhupada, Prahlad Maharaj, Rohini, any of these people, absolutely, then you will go into a state of bliss. You will start feeling so happy because this is all rasa. Subhadra and Arjuna being separated, this is rasa. Sita Ram being separated is rasa. Vidura being thrown out is rasa. It's all sweet. And so when we meditate on this, we will be filled with this sweetness, and then we will not even remember what we were afraid about.
And we think we are fortunate, like, we are facing this and we are getting stronger.
That's also true. That's also true, but I haven't found that to be as effective. If I try to convince myself that whatever difficulty I'm going through is actually Krishna's mercy for my purification, I personally have not found that as helpful, because I'm still caught up in thinking about my situation. But if I start thinking instead about Krishna and Krishna's devotees, then immediately, like in 1 minute, all of the material anxiety goes away like incense smoke blowing out the window or something, it just...
I like the way you said about rebellion. When somebody instructs me, I oppose. Who are you to do that? In
Yes,
spite of my chanting and Trinadapi Shunichena, if somebody says you're doing wrong, I will not listen to you. I will do what I like.
yes,
Even the Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. Last is Ma Sucha, do not worry.
yes.
He said, don't worry, and we should have a faith that, oh, Krishna said, don't worry, he will take care of me.
Yes.
But when the problem comes, I keep worrying.
That's right. That's right. But anyway, this is my suggestion. Instead, think of Krishna. Use whatever is happening in our life as a impetus to remember something of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Then everything is good. And that also gets it off of me. Even if I'm thinking, oh, Krishna is so kind to me, this is purification for me. Or even I should be humble. Why am I offended? I should be humble. I, me. Aham mameti. But if somebody insults me and I become angry, I can think, Duryodhana became very angry when he fell in the water and everybody laughed. But Krishna let them laugh because Krishna knew that. And then I just start becoming absorbed in the Leela and I forget about me. I just start thinking of Krishna. So today we can meditate on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Simha Guru, fearless.
Fearless Guru,
We
yes.
talk about fear today, he is fearless.
Fearless, especially fearless in preaching personalism. So thank you very much, and thank you for staying through the whole purport and going till after 9. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.